Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Who doesn't want to be a screenwriter, right? Who doesn't want to write a script and have it be popular? Like, there's so many people that want to do a lot of these like things in the creative space.
Welcome to the Comedians and Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Nick McCabe. Nick, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Nick McCabe. I'm live in the Chicagoland area, and I'm a screenwriter, filmmaker. I also do some improv.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, are you ready to get started, Nick?
Yep, I'm ready.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. All right. So the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any joke. So, Nick, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
All right. All right. Ready for the first question?
Yeah.
All right. It's about the role of persona in comedy. So, how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
I think um it's different for each person, but I think whether they're playing a character or their authentic selves, I think it's really important to, find that lane that you want to be in and be confident. Um, you know, uh, if you are playing a persona, to play it genuinely and authentically as you can. If you play a character and it doesn't seem authentic, that audience might not really tune into that.
Yeah, they'll be bored and yawning. We don't want that. So
Yeah.
then obviously authenticity matters, but
hmm
is illusion part of the magic?
Yeah, I think illusion's part of the magic too. I think, yeah, definitely. And see, when they've been doing it for years, they've fine-tuned that illusion and that persona and see what works and what doesn't work. So I think definitely illusion is part of it.
All right. So how about punching up versus punching down? So where do comics versus comedians stand on this? And let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
I think I think it depends. I think if the prince I think if he was being performative, I think then maybe it was, if it was like he was making an example of the jester, I would imagine perhaps it was the first was it what do you say, the first joke or the
First comedian.
first
Or was he
comedian,
a
yeah.
comic?
Oh, there you go. He's the first comedian right there. Let's see. Um yeah, let's say first the comedian for he's making an example of the jester by killing him in front of everyone. So if it was like a performative thing, I would say.
Yes. So
Yeah.
is the audience agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
That's always good. I think I would say permission. I think when the audience is agreeing, giving them like laughter or applause or that, I think it's their giving them permission, because I think, any uh comic or comedian, I think if they don't receive that laughter or applause, then it's like I'm not getting that permission. I need to change what I'm doing if I'm going to continue to be up on stage.
So, how about cultural translation of comedy? So, how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
I think definitely the context, um, what we assume to be true here in this country or this region of a country might not work for other places. I think, I was thinking about this too. I think a lot of um like comedians, I think they might tend to talk about their trip to that country and their experiences in that country to try to keep it relevant to where they're at right now currently, because understanding the whole culture and that where they tour might be difficult, especially if they're touring all over Europe or wherever. They might just be like, I went over here, or they can always revert to like um comparing their country to America and stuff like that. But I think they try to keep it close to the vest where but they can be relevant to it in order for the audiences in different places to understand them.
So, then how does the silence when your joke doesn't land hurt? Physically, emotionally, morally, or spiritually?
That's a good one. I think it's probably different for each person. Um, I think, I mean, I would say it probably can affect them on different levels, but I'm sure like emotionally it really affects them. I think, um, they put so much of themselves into their bit or routine that if something doesn't land, like if they, oh, I got this great joke, I'm gonna tell, and it doesn't land, it and probably can hit them emotionally. I think I mean, comedy is an emotion. It's, with laughter and all that stuff. And you don't get that, you don't get that feedback. I mean, I think that can hit you back emotionally.
So, then are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
I would say so. Yeah, I think
All
so
right.
for sure.
All all right. So, love and justice. So, is the highest function of comedy to expose injustice or to make people feel less alone while living with it?
I think it can be both. I think for some people, comedy can be an escape. It can be, like you were saying, like feel less alone. Um, and people just want, because you always hear the people that, oh, I don't want politics or whatever in the comedy. I just want to laugh. I just want to escape. But there's also, I think, desire to listen to those comics and comedians that can talk about injustices and talk about society. And so I think both there's a room for both of them.
All right. So, how about when a joke harms someone unintentionally? Does love demand accountability or does justice demand defiance?
Hmm. So I think it's a good one. I think love, I would probably be more towards love demands accountability. I think, um,
Okay.
yeah, probably that's probably again, like the comic or comedian has to realize, but again, at the same time, I don't think, I think when you're up there on stage, you can't necessarily worry about how every single person reacts. I think it's more of a collective reaction. I think you have to look for if you've offended one person, but everyone else is fine. I mean, it all depends too. As a performer, but I think Um, I'm sure when if someone's up there on stage for the first time, they're probably concerned about how everyone's reacting. Whereas if you've been doing it for years, you're probably not concerned about how, Joe in section D, row 7 is, if he likes it or not, so I think it becomes more of a collective reaction after you've done it for a while.
All right. So, very important question, advertising and self promotion. Who advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast to get the message out today. See you soon.
I would probably say, I think the comedian, I think they're the ones like nowadays are on social media the most. If I'm thinking of this right, like, social media has become such a game changer, I think, for um, a lot of comedians, where it's like you have to show your bits, you have to show your crowd work, you have to show all this for free on social media to promote your shows. Um, and that's they're all doing that now.
So then is
Mhm.
self-promotion seen as
Beady,
selling
beady, beady,
out, or is it
beady.
necessary for survival?
I think it's necessary for survival. I think with this day and age, you take anything that's popular, take any you name it. Like I said, I'm in screenwriting. There's who doesn't want to be a screenwriter, right? Who doesn't want to write a script and have it be popular? Like there's so many people that want to do a lot of these like things in the creative space that you need to self promote and you need to, especially like, you know, kind of stepping aside from this and with like being a screenwriter. Like screenwriters are kind of uh, known for being kind of introverts, and there's a lot of encouragement. Like you got to promote yourself, you got to be out there and you're social. So I think same thing goes for you know median, comic, whatever you're doing. I think you need to really self promote yourself. You got to show that you are someone that is worth paying attention to, because if it's not you, it's going to be someone else that's going to try to vie for a viewer's attention.
Absolutely. All right. So censorship and offense. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
I think it varies on each person. I mean, you definitely have one. Because would we say like Ricky Gervais is like say he's a comic, or do you say
Well, I mean that's a tough one. So he does do situational, but
yeah, a
I
comic
think
comedian?
I mean, you tell me, how would you see him? A lot of, you know, his character is
That
pretty
is a tough one.
consistent. Yeah,
Yeah, his
it's
character's
always
consistent.
difficult. Yeah, that
Yeah, it's a difficult
consistency
one.
makes it tough to
Yeah.
say. So the whole idea is, it's not that you are, but maybe honestly, how I would see Ricky Gervais in particular and anyone at that level is that they've gone through a cycle where they started with one or the other,
Hmm.
they evolved, and so I would argue you can also start as a comedian and evolve into a comic.
Hmm.
Then you take what you've learned and just like AI, refeed it back into from the beginning with
Hmm.
new data, and you just keep going, right? And so
Yeah.
you're doing both at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Oh, I
so
was
then
just going to say
who's
like was that?
go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say
Mhm.
with him, I think he is definitely someone who doesn't mind offending people. That definitely doesn't mind offending like other. A-list celebrities. He's kind of actually famously made a statement lately too when he was talking about the Golden Globes don't celebrities don't make any statements, and he was I think in relation to like celebrities that were talking about ICE.
Hmm.
And so I mean I think that's different than politics and stuff, but I mean I won't get into that. But I mean the point is I think it's more of like the individual. I think whether they want to be something outrageous or say something that might be offensive to people, whether it's celebrities or just, other people at all at large.
So then who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Um, Probably the magician. I mean, I think magicians, most people love magic. I think you go out there if you want something that's entertaining. Um, you like to find the illusion to the different tricks.
Absolutely. So how about timing and delivery? Is it a science or an art?
I know I saw someone else talk about this too. Yeah, that's I think it's an art. Like I think you because for each person it's different. It's not the same. If it was a science, I think more people would have the same like delivery and timing, but at each comic and comedian has different timing and delivery that works for them. Um, and so I think it's an art. It's finding your own time and delivery that works for you.
So then do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. All right. So laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks or a primetime Emmy that validate the message?
Um, I think I think they're all both. I'd say they're both probably chasing like the laughter. I think you always want the laughter. And then I think with applause, I think it's more after like there's so much laughter that there's you know applause because the whole thing is like so great. I think primarily you're chasing the. I think both of them are chasing the laughter.
Not necessarily, but for the most
Okay,
part, I would agree. So,
yeah.
all right. So how about comedy as commentary? So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Um, I think it's a fine line. I mean, I think when they're making general statements, when it's not something like specific about like a particular person or situation, but there might be talking about like in generalizations, it might be. I think a lot of comics and comedians are a great philosophy. Like I know people like to talk about George Carlin, but I was reading a statement about from David Letterman this morning, and he talked about one of the most important qualities to have as a person is being courageous. And it says if you can't be courageous, fake being courageous. I think it's a really good, like, especially from someone like him. He's been out there for decades, and he's not afraid to, um, admit when his jokes don't land. He'll make jokes about it, and he's also been very public about um, different issues, especially this, with his own issues with CBS, and he's brought those up again when Steve McClebert got canceled by CBS. Um, so I think that's a great statement from him.
So is it good or does it dilute the humor?
I think it's good. Yeah, I think I mean, overall, again, each person's different, but I think overall, as a whole, it's really good.
All right. So Nick, are you ready to enter the multiverse?
Yes,
All right.
go in the
Board.
multiverse.
And here we go. Board game Zoomcast. Play versus performance. So you got to choose an avatar. If comedy were a board game Zoomcast, Are you competing as the colorist avatar, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist avatar, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
I think the Foley avatar building was it the soundscapes and the
Yeah. So, yeah. So, does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
I think it's been painted vividly.
All right. All right. So, here on the Comedians in Elevators podcast, we have a tradition where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest. And the previous
Mhm.
guest was Gatsby. And his question for you, Nick, is what is your favorite comedian of all time?
Ooh, of all time. Um, I would probably say I know this might be a little slightly controversial because of more like modern stuff, but um I think my favorite one of all time, Dave Chappelle. When I was growing up, I watched the Chappelle Show, and that was just absolutely hilarious. Um, just his characters in that too, and Half Baked was a great movie too. So I would say Chappelle.
All right. Awesome. All right. So, last question, legacy. Who gets remembered? So, will the comic's tight five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Um, I would probably say the comedians' cultural relevance. They're I think that's something that people will remember on because I think um, they'll remember that's something that seems more relevant, I think, to the audience members more personally.
All right. Makes sense. So, Nick, where can everyone find you online?
So I put most of my uh, creative material right now on LinkedIn. I'm also going to be putting it up on Instagram as well as Facebook. I also have a website called thenickmccabe.com because nickmccabe.com was taken and that website's just a redirect to Instagram, but my website is and then my name, nickmccabe.com. Yeah, I'm going to be shooting a short film soon. I'll be putting that up. Should be like beginning of March. So if you put that up on social media.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Nick, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
If you're interested in too much information like in the network state or Mantipus the chicken shit, check out this video. Or is it this one right here? Well, either way. Lizard.